A German mother receives a Red Cross photo of her daughter Anna, a prisoner of war in America. But instead of relief and joy, she stares at the photo with her hands trembling and whispers words that will haunt Anna forever. "What did you do?" The photo shows something that makes the neighbors start whispering cruel accusations. Something that makes Anna's own mother write back saying, "Do not write again." But what could be so terrible in a simple identification photograph that would make a mother disown her own daughter? What did Anna's photo reveal that turned her from a victim of war into an accused traitor in the eyes of her own family? October 3, 1945. Fort Sheridan, Illinois. 28 German women stood in formation outside the administration building. Their gray prisoner uniforms pressed flat against their bodies by wind coming off Lake Michigan. Staff Sergeant Dorothy Walsh emerged carrying a camera and tripod. Behind her, a corporal wheeled out a cart containing numbered placards and a height chart. "Mandatory identification photographs," Walsh announced through the translator. "Individual portraits for International Red Cross records. You'll be called alphabetically. Each woman will hold a placard displaying her prisoner number, current weight, and date of photograph. Standard protocol." The translator rendered the words into German. Anna Richter, 34 years old, former secretary from Berlin, mother of 2 daughters she hadn't seen in 8 months, felt her stomach clench. Photographs, with numbers, like criminals, like something that would be distributed, displayed, used as proof of their guilt. She'd heard the warnings before capture, about how the Allies would photograph German prisoners for propaganda purposes, how those photos would show defeated enemies, humiliated women, broken people meant to demonstrate Allied victory. But more than the humiliation, she feared something else. She feared what the photograph would show. Because Anna Richter had gained 23 pounds in 6 weeks. Her face had filled out. Her skin had regained color. Her eyes were clear instead of sunken. She looked healthier as an enemy prisoner than she'd looked in the last 3 years of German freedom. And when her mother saw that photograph, when anyone in Germany saw it, they would ask one question. How? How did you gain weight while we starved? How did you look so healthy while we died? How did you betray us? If you're watching from Illinois, Berlin, or anywhere families have been torn apart by war and reunited by accusations, hit that like button and subscribe. This story, documented in Red Cross photograph archives and family letters declassified in 2003, reveals how one identification photo became the evidence that destroyed a family. Stay until the end to see how survival became betrayal, how health became guilt, and how a mother's love turned to accusation because her daughter looked too well fed to be telling the truth. Anna Richter had 2 daughters, Elizabeth, 12 years old, Greta, 9, left with Anna's mother in Berlin when Anna was conscripted for civil defense work in 1944. She'd been a secretary at the Air Ministry, filing reports, typing memos, administrative work that kept the bureaucracy of war functioning. She hadn't wanted to leave her children. But refusal meant arrest, meant being sent somewhere worse than office work, meant abandoning her daughters to the state rather than to family. So she'd gone, had kissed Elizabeth and Greta goodbye on a cold January morning, had promised she'd write every week, had told them grandmother would take care of them until Mama came home. She'd kept that promise for 14 months, every week, a letter, sometimes just a paragraph. Paper was scarce, words had to be rationed like everything else. But enough to let her daughters know she was alive. She was thinking of them. She was coming home as soon as the war ended. The last letter she'd received from her mother was dated March 1945, before the fall of Berlin, before the chaos, before everything collapsed. It said, "The girls are thin but alive. Food is nearly gone. We eat what we can find. Don't worry about us. Survive." Then silence. 2 months of silence before Anna was captured by American forces in a makeshift office in a half-destroyed building outside Munich. 2 months of not knowing if her mother and daughters were alive or dead. Now it was October, 6 months since capture, 5 months since Germany's surrender, and still no word. The Red Cross was processing family location requests, millions of requests. Millions of displaced people trying to find millions of other displaced people across a continent that had been torn apart and was being slowly stitched back together by occupation forces. Anna checked daily. Richter, Margaret, Richter, Elizabeth, Richter, Greta, Berlin. Nothing. No confirmation of life. No confirmation of death. Just absence. And now they wanted to take her photograph. A photograph that would be filed with the Red Cross. A photograph that might eventually reach her mother. A photograph that would show her looking healthier than she'd looked in years. Because the Americans fed their prisoners. Fed them adequately. Fed them 3 meals a day with actual protein and vegetables and bread that tasted like bread. Fed them until bodies that had been slowly consuming themselves began to remember what normal function felt like. Anna had gained 23 pounds. She could feel it in how her clothes fit, could see it in how her face had changed, could sense it in the energy she had, the clarity of thought, the absence of the constant gnawing hunger that had defined the last 2 years of her life. She was healthy, and that health would condemn her. They had been warned specifically about photographs. In the final chaotic weeks before Germany's collapse, when it became clear that defeat was inevitable, there had been briefings. Scattered, disorganized briefings delivered by officers who were themselves preparing to flee or die. The Allies will photograph you. One officer had told a group of female civil defense workers. They will use these photographs for propaganda, to show the world that Germany has been defeated, that German women have been humiliated, that we are broken. She'd paused, her face carrying the particular exhaustion of someone who no longer believed what she was saying, but said it anyway because the script required it. Do not give them satisfaction. Do not smile. Do not show weakness. Maintain dignity. Remember you represent Germany even in captivity. Another briefing. Different officer. They will take identification photos and distribute them through the Red Cross. But do not be fooled. These photos will be used to track you, to monitor you, to create records of German prisoners that can be used for future prosecution. The warnings had been varied but consistent. Photographs were weapons. Documentation was danger. Your image would be used against you. What no one had warned them about was the opposite problem, that the photographs would show them looking too healthy, that survival would look like collaboration, that gaining weight in enemy captivity would appear to be evidence of betrayal rather than evidence of finally receiving adequate nutrition. 3,000 miles away in Berlin, Margareta Richter stood in a bread line that stretched 3 blocks. She was 62 years old. She weighed 94 pounds. She had 2 granddaughters who depended on her for survival. The ration that day was 200 grams of bread per person, 7 ounces. Enough to keep you alive, but not enough to stop the slow deterioration of a body that had been inadequately fed for too long. She took her ration, 3 small portions, 1 for each of them, and walked back to the basement apartment where she and the girls lived. The building above was destroyed. The basement was intact. It was home. Elizabeth and Greta sat at a makeshift table doing schoolwork by candlelight. Both girls were thin, painfully thin, the kind of thin where bones pressed against skin and every movement seemed to require more energy than their bodies possessed. But they were alive. That was something. Grandmother. Elizabeth looked up. Did any mail come? Mail. Letters from the Red Cross. Confirmation that Anna was alive. Confirmation that she was coming home. Confirmation that their mother hadn't died in the final collapse. Not today, Margaret said, but it will come. Be patient. She didn't know if she believed that. Didn't know if Anna was alive. Didn't know if the Red Cross could actually track people in the chaos of post-war displacement. But hope was cheaper than bread, and the girls needed something to sustain them. That night, after the girls were asleep, Margaret wrote in a small notebook she'd kept hidden, October 3rd, 1945. Still no word from Anna. 6 months of silence. The girls ask every day. I tell them their mother is alive. I tell them she will come home. I tell them we must be patient. But I am afraid. Afraid she is dead. Afraid she is alive but cannot reach us. Afraid that even if she survives, she will return to find her daughters so changed by hunger that she will not recognize them. We are alive, but we are not living. We are simply not yet dead. Fort Sheridan was nothing like what Anna had expected from a prison camp. The barracks were clean, heated. The windows had glass. The bunks had mattresses, thin, but actual mattresses. There were bathrooms with running water, showers with soap, laundry facilities where you could wash your clothes. It was more comfortable than her apartment in Berlin had been in the final year of the war. The work assignments were administrative. Anna, with her secretarial experience, was assigned to the camp records office. She filed papers, typed reports, did the same bureaucratic work she'd done in Berlin, except here the office had functioning equipment, adequate supplies, and electricity that worked. They were fed 3 times daily. Breakfast, porridge, bread, coffee. Lunch, soup, bread, occasionally meat. Dinner, a hot meal with protein, vegetables, starch. Not luxury, not abundance. Just adequate nutrition provided systematically, reliably, without the constant fear that tomorrow there would be nothing. Anna's body responded predictably. The first week, she gained 4 pounds. The second week, 5 more. By the 6th week, she'd gained 23 pounds total. She now weighed 121 pounds. Not overweight, just healthy, normal. What a woman her height and age should weigh when properly nourished. But when she looked in the mirror, a luxury the camp provided, mirrors in the bathrooms, she barely recognized herself. The hollow-cheeked woman who'd been captured in March had been replaced by someone who looked like the Anna from before the war. Before the hunger. Before the slow deterioration that had become so normal she'd stopped noticing it. She looked at this reflection and thought, "My mother will not believe I am a prisoner." Diary entry. October 3rd, 1945. They're taking photographs tomorrow. Identification photos for Red Cross records. I am terrified, not of the camera, of what the photo will show. I weigh 121 pounds now. I have gained 23 pounds in 6 weeks. My face is full. My eyes are clear. I look healthy. When Mama sees this photo, if she sees it, she will think I collaborated, will think I traded something for food, will think I betrayed Germany to survive. How do I explain that the enemy fed me adequately while Germany let me starve? How do I make her understand that health is not betrayal? I don't know. I only know the photo will condemn me. Morning came cold and clear. October wind off the lake cut through everything. The women lined up alphabetically. Anna stood near the middle. Richter came after Muller, but before Schmidt. She watched as women ahead of her were called forward, positioned against a height chart, handed a placard with their information, photographed. Each woman held the placard at chest level. Each woman stared at the camera with expressions ranging from defiant to resigned to blank. When Anna's name was called, Richter Anna, prisoner 2934, her legs felt unsteady. She walked to the mark on the floor. Sergeant Walsh adjusted the camera angle. The corporal handed her the placard, white cardboard with black lettering, prisoner 2934, Anna Richter, weight 121, LBS date 03 OCT 1945. Anna held the sign at chest level, stared at the camera, tried to arrange her face into something neutral. The flash went off. Next, Walsh said. That was it. 15 seconds. One photograph that would be filed with the International Committee of the Red Cross. One photograph that would potentially be distributed to family location services across occupied Germany. One photograph that showed Anna Richter looking healthier than she'd looked in 3 years. She handed back the placard and returned to formation, her hands shaking. The photographs were developed in the camp darkroom, printed in duplicate. One copy filed with camp records. One copy sent to the Red Cross for family location services. Anna saw her photo 3 days later when she was working in the records office. Saw it sitting in a stack of prisoner identification photos waiting to be mailed. She stared at the image. The woman in the photo looked calm, healthy, well-fed. Her face was full. Her eyes were clear. There was no visible sign of malnutrition, suffering, or deprivation. She looked like a civilian who'd been photographed for a passport, not like a prisoner of war. That was the problem. It's a good photo, the clerk said, noticing Anna staring. Better than most. You should be glad. Some of the women looked terrified. You look normal. Normal. That was exactly the problem. She looked normal. She looked like someone who'd been living a normal life with adequate food and shelter and care. She didn't look like someone whose country had been destroyed, whose family might be dead, whose life had been torn apart by war. She looked like someone who'd been comfortable, safe, protected. She looked like someone who'd betrayed everything to achieve that comfort. November 18th, 1945. Berlin. Margareta Richter received notification from the International Committee of the Red Cross. A thin envelope delivered by a volunteer who was processing family location requests. Inside, a form letter and a photograph. The letter read, "Dear Frau Richter, we are pleased to inform you that your daughter, Anna Richter, has been located in American custody at Fort Sheridan, Illinois, United States. She is classified as a civilian prisoner of war. Her current status is healthy." Enclosed is her identification photograph dated October 3rd, 1945. For correspondence, you may write to the address below. All letters will be screened by military censors but will be delivered. International Committee of the Red Cross. Margaret stared at the letter, read it 3 times, tried to process the words. Anna was alive, in America. Healthy. Healthy. She turned the photograph over with trembling hands. The woman in the photo was unmistakably Anna. Same features, same dark hair, same serious expression. But this woman looked nothing like the daughter Margaret remembered. This woman's face was full, rounded. Her cheeks had substance. Her skin had color. Her body, visible from chest up in the photo, looked strong, solid, well-nourished. The placard she held said, "Weight, 121 lbs." Margaret did the mental conversion. 55 kilograms. Her daughter weighed 55 kilograms. Margaret weighed 43 kilograms, 94 pounds. Elizabeth weighed 38 kilograms, 83 pounds. Greta weighed 35 kilograms, 77 pounds. Anna, prisoner of war, held by the enemy, supposedly suffering in captivity, weighed more than her mother and both daughters combined. Margaret stared at the photo and felt something cold settle in her chest. That evening, Margaret showed the photo to the girls. "Look," she said, trying to keep her voice neutral. "Your mother, she's alive, in America. She's well." Elizabeth took the photo carefully, studied it. Her face went through several expressions: relief, confusion, something that might have been anger. "She looks fat," Elizabeth said finally. Greta leaned in to see. "She looks like she's been eating. How is she eating if she's a prisoner?" Margaret had no answer that satisfied her own questions, let alone theirs. That night, she wrote the first letter. "Anna, the Red Cross sent your photograph. I am grateful to know you are alive. The girls and I have been praying for news. But I must ask, how do you look so healthy? The photograph shows you at 55 kilograms. I weigh 43. Elizabeth weighs 38. Greta weighs 35. You are a prisoner, and you weigh more than your entire family. People here will ask questions, are already asking questions." Frau Muller saw the photo and asked if you had been given special treatment. "Herr Schmidt suggested you must have collaborated with the Americans to receive such good care. I told them you would never betray Germany, that there must be an explanation. Please write back quickly. Explain what happened. Explain how you came to look like this while we starve. Your mother." She sealed the letter knowing it sounded like an accusation, knowing she was demanding her daughter defend herself for the crime of surviving too well. But she couldn't stop the questions in her own mind, couldn't stop wondering what Anna had done to earn that healthy face, that solid body, that weight that spoke of months of adequate nutrition. Diary entry, November 18th, 1945. Received photo of Anna today. She is alive, in America, healthy, too healthy. She weighs 121 pounds while I weigh 94, while her daughters weigh less than 85 each. How does a prisoner gain weight while free citizens starve? What did she do? What did she trade? The neighbors are already asking questions, already looking at me with suspicion. "Your daughter looks well fed for a prisoner," Frau Muller said. The implication was clear. Prisoners don't look like that unless they collaborate. I want to defend her, want to believe there's an explanation. But I look at that photo and I see someone who survived comfortably while we died slowly, and I don't know how to forgive that. 3 weeks later, Anna received her mother's letter. She read it in the barracks during evening free time. Read it once quickly, then again slowly, then a third time trying to find warmth in words that felt cold. "Wie kommst du so gesund aus? How do you come to look so healthy? Was hast du getan? What did you do? Die Leute stellen Fragen. People are asking questions." Her mother's letter was an accusation wrapped in concern, was demanding Anna defend her survival, was requiring her to explain why she weighed 121 pounds when her family weighed less combined. Anna sat on her bunk holding the letter and felt tears burning behind her eyes. She hadn't betrayed anyone. She'd been captured, been processed through military bureaucracy, been assigned to a camp where prisoners were fed according to Geneva Convention requirements, been given adequate nutrition because that was policy, not because she'd done anything to earn it. But how did she explain that? How did she make her mother understand that American prisoner of war camps followed rules, that they fed prisoners systematically, that gaining weight wasn't evidence of collaboration, it was evidence of finally receiving the nutrition her body needed? She wrote back that night, "Mama, I understand your questions. I understand how the photo must look. But you need to understand what happened here. When I was captured, I weighed 98 pounds. I was dying. I didn't know it. We were all so hungry for so long that starvation felt normal. But I was dying. The Americans conducted medical examinations. They documented severe malnutrition. They put me on a therapeutic feeding plan. 2,500 calories daily, vitamin supplements, medical monitoring. Not because I asked for it, not because I did anything to earn it. Because the Geneva Convention requires adequate nutrition for all prisoners. I gained 23 pounds in 6 weeks. My body was so starved that it responded immediately to proper feeding. The doctor said if I'd stayed at 98 pounds for another few months, my organs would have failed. Mama, I wasn't being rewarded. I was being saved from dying of malnutrition. I know how this sounds. I know what people will think. But I did not collaborate. I did not betray Germany. I was simply fed adequately for the first time in years. Tell Elizabeth and Greta I love them. Tell them I am coming home as soon as repatriation is permitted. Your daughter, Anna. She sealed the letter knowing it wouldn't be enough. Knowing her mother would read 2,500 calories daily and think about the 800 calories per day they were surviving on in Berlin. Knowing the explanation would sound like excuse, but it was the truth. And truth was all she had. Margaret received Anna's reply in mid-December. She read it sitting at the kitchen table while the girls were at the community soup kitchen trying to get their daily ration. 2,500 calories daily. Margaret did the math. That was more than triple what they received in Berlin, more than triple what was supposedly adequate for survival. The letter explained medical treatment, explained Geneva Convention requirements, explained that Anna had been dying and the Americans had saved her. But all Margaret could think was, my daughter ate 2,500 calories every day while her children ate 800. My daughter gained 23 pounds while her daughters lost weight. My daughter was saved by the enemy while her family was abandoned by everyone. She wrote back immediately. The letter was shorter this time, colder. Anna, I understand you believe you did nothing wrong, but you must understand how this appears. You ate 2,500 calories daily while your daughters ate 800. You gained weight while they lost it. You were saved while we were left to die. The neighbors no longer speak to me. They believe you collaborated. They believe you earned special treatment through betrayal. Frau Schmidt said her daughter died in Ravensbrück weighing 60 pounds. She asked how your daughter gets fat in an American camp while hers died in a German one. I had no answer. Elizabeth asked if you loved food more than you loved us. Greta asked if you forgot about us. I told them you didn't forget. But I wonder if that's true. Do not write again until you can explain this in a way that makes sense. In a way that doesn't sound like you chose comfort over family. Mother. She sealed the letter with hands that shook from anger and hunger and grief, all mixed together into something that felt like hate. Anna received her mother's second letter in late December. She read it in the records office during her lunch break. Read the words that felt like a knife twisting. Schreib nicht wieder. Do not write again. Her mother was cutting contact. Was choosing to believe the neighbors over her own daughter. Was deciding that Anna's survival was betrayal rather than medicine. Anna sat at her desk staring at the letter while her lunch, chicken, potatoes, green beans, sat untouched beside her. 2,500 calories. The exact number her mother had used as evidence of guilt. The American clerk noticed. Bad news from home? Anna nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Family stuff is always hard, the clerk said sympathetically. Especially with everything that's happened. Give it time. They'll understand eventually. But Anna knew better. Her mother wouldn't understand, couldn't understand. Because understanding would require accepting that Germany had failed its people while America had succeeded. Would require admitting that the enemy had been more humane than the homeland. That was too much cognitive dissonance for someone starving in the ruins of Berlin. Anna didn't write back. What could she say that hadn't already been said? What explanation would satisfy a mother who weighed 94 pounds and was watching her granddaughters slowly starve? Instead, she doubled her work hours, stayed late filing records, organizing prisoner correspondence, processing repatriation paperwork, anything to avoid sitting in the barracks with time to think. The other women noticed. You're working yourself to exhaustion, one said. What's wrong? Anna showed her the letter. Let her read the accusation. The woman handed it back with an expression that mixed sympathy and understanding. My brother sent me something similar, said I looked too healthy in my Red Cross photo, asked what I'd done to earn special treatment. What did you tell him? The truth, that I was dying and the Americans saved me. He didn't believe it. She paused. He stopped writing 3 months ago. I think my family has decided I'm dead to them. Easier than believing I'm a collaborator. Around the barracks, similar stories emerged. Other women who'd sent photos home. Other women who'd received letters of accusation. Other women whose families refused to believe that American POW camps provided adequate nutrition as policy rather than reward for collaboration. The betrayal wasn't one-directional. The families felt betrayed by daughters who survived too well. The daughters felt betrayed by families who couldn't accept their survival. And the photographs, those simple identification photos, had become evidence in a trial where health was the crime and adequate nutrition was proof of guilt. Berlin, January 1946. Margareta Richter had become a pariah. The neighbors no longer greeted her. The women in the breadline whispered when she passed. The community that had been her support system through 2 years of bombardment and starvation now treated her like she carried disease, because her daughter had looked too healthy in that photograph. Frau Schmidt cornered her one morning. My daughter died in Ravensbrück, 60 pounds, beaten and starved. Your daughter gains weight in an American camp. How? Margaret had no answer that satisfied. Frau Müller added, my son was worked to death in a labor camp. Your daughter gets 2,500 calories daily. You said so yourself. What did she do to earn that? The implication was clear. The only way a German prisoner could be treated so well was through collaboration, through betrayal, through trading something, information, loyalty, dignity, for comfort. Margaret defended Anna initially. She was dying. They saved her. It's medical treatment, not reward. But even as she said it, she didn't fully believe it, because how could medical treatment account for such dramatic difference? How could policy explain why Anna weighed 121 pounds, while her own daughters weighed less than 85? The doubt grew, fed by hunger, fed by the constant struggle to keep Elizabeth and Greta alive, fed by the whispers and accusations and isolation. By February, Margaret stopped defending her daughter, just stayed silent when people asked questions, let them draw their own conclusions. It was easier than fighting, easier than trying to explain something she didn't understand herself. Diary entry, February 10th, 1946. Haven't written Anna in 2 months. Don't know what to say. The girls ask about her less frequently now. Elizabeth said yesterday that maybe Mama forgot about us. Greta asked if prisoners are allowed to choose new families. I told them their mother loves them. But I wonder, if she loved us, how could she eat so well while we starved? How could she gain 23 pounds while her children lost weight? The neighbors think she collaborated. Maybe they're right. Maybe survival required betrayal. Maybe that's what war does. Turns mothers into people who choose themselves over their children. March 1946, Fort Sheridan. Repatriation was scheduled for June. 3 months until Anna would return to Germany. 3 months to figure out how to face her family. She decided to send a package. Used her labor wages. Prisoners were paid small amounts for work to buy items at the camp store. Things her family needed. Vitamins, canned milk, soap, fabric. She packed them carefully. Included a letter. Mama, I know you asked me not to write, but I'm sending this package anyway. Not because I need forgiveness. Because Elizabeth and Greta need vitamins. The canned milk has 120 calories per serving. The vitamins are B-complex and C, essential for preventing deficiency diseases. The soap is for hygiene. The fabric can be traded for food. I'm coming home in June. I don't know if you'll want to see me. Don't know if the girls will recognize me. Don't know if you'll ever believe I didn't betray you. But I'm still their mother, still your daughter, and I'm still trying to keep you alive even if you think I chose myself over you. Anna. She sent the package through Red Cross channels. It would take weeks to arrive, might not arrive at all. Theft and loss were common in the chaos of occupied Germany. But she had to try. Had to do something besides sit in guilt while her family starved. April 1946. Berlin. The package arrived damaged. One corner crushed, but most of the contents were intact. Margaret opened it with Elizabeth and Greta watching. Inside canned milk, vitamin bottles, soap, fabric, and the letter. The girls fell on the milk immediately. Can we have some? Please. Margaret read Anna's letter while the girls drank their first adequate milk in months. Read about calories and vitamins and hygiene. Read the practical instructions for survival from a daughter who'd learned what bodies needed because she'd finally received it herself. The letter ended, I'm still their mother. Margaret looked at Elizabeth and Greta, both drinking milk with the desperate hunger of children who'd been deprived too long. Looked at the vitamins that might prevent scurvy, beriberi, the deficiency diseases that killed slowly. Looked at the soap that meant they could stay clean, prevent infections, maintain basic hygiene. Anna had sent them survival, had used her prisoner wages to buy what they needed, had continued being a mother even when her own mother had stopped believing in her. Margaret felt something crack in her chest. Not forgiveness yet, but doubt about her own certainty. That night she wrote back for the first time in 4 months. Anna, the package arrived. The girls drank the milk. They asked if you remembered them. I said yes. I don't know if I can forgive you for looking so healthy while we starved. Don't know if I can understand how you gained weight while your daughters lost it. But I see that you're trying, that you used your wages to send us survival. Maybe that means something. Maybe that's enough. Come home in June. We will see what happens. Mother, it wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't acceptance. But it was permission. Permission to return. Permission to try to rebuild what the photograph had destroyed. Diary entry, April 15th, 1946. Wrote to Anna today. First time in 4 months. Told her to come home. Don't know if this is weakness or wisdom. Don't know if forgiving her means betraying the neighbors who've lost so much. Don't know if accepting her survival means accepting that Germany failed us worse than America failed her. I only know the girls need their mother, and I need my daughter, even if she betrayed us to survive. Even if that survival looks like health while we look like death. May 1946, Fort Sheridan. Before repatriation, the Army required updated identification photographs, documentation of current status before transfer to occupation authorities. Anna stood against the height chart one more time, held a placard one more time. Prisoner, 2934. Anna Richter weight, 128. Elbius date, 15 May, 1946. She'd gained 5 more pounds, was now at healthy weight for her height, was strong, clear-eyed, well-nourished. The photograph would be filed, would be sent to the Red Cross, would potentially reach her mother and show that 8 months in American captivity had transformed Anna from 98 pounds to 128 pounds, from dying to thriving. She stared at the camera and thought, this photo will be my defense or my condemnation. Evidence that I was dying and they saved me. Or evidence that I betrayed everything to survive comfortably. The flash went off. June 1946. Anna boarded the transport ship in New York. She carried a small bag containing her few clothes, the 2 identification photographs, October and May, her medical records, letters from her mother, and the original accusation letter that had started everything. The ship crossed the Atlantic through summer storms. 3 weeks of rough seas and crowded berths and women returning to a continent they barely recognized. Anna spent the crossing writing, not letters. There was no one to send them to. Just documentation, a record of what had happened, what she'd experienced, what she'd learned about survival and betrayal, and how easily one could be mistaken for the other. She wrote, when they told me to hold the sign with my weight, I knew it would condemn me. Knew that 121 pounds would look like guilt to people who weighed 90, but I couldn't make myself weigh less, couldn't undo the nutrition that had saved my life, couldn't apologize for being adequately fed for the first time in years. So I held the sign, took the photo, sent it home, and waited for my family to decide whether survival was worth losing their trust. The ship docked in Bremerhaven in late June. Buses carried repatriated prisoners inland through a Germany that looked like the end of the world. Anna pressed her face to the window and tried to recognize her country. Failed. This landscape of rubble and displaced people and occupation forces was something new, something that had emerged from war's ashes, but hadn't yet become anything coherent. July 1946, Berlin. Anna stood outside the building where her mother and daughters lived. The building was half destroyed, but the ground floor remained functional. She carried her bag, carried her photographs, carried 8 months of guilt and defensive explanations and the desperate hope that family was stronger than accusation. She knocked. Her mother opened the door, stared. Margaret weighed maybe 95 pounds now, 1 pound more than in October, but still skeletal. Her face was hollow. Her skin was gray. She looked 20 years older than she was. Anna weighed 128 pounds, looked healthy, strong, well-fed. The contrast was undeniable. Unbearable. Mama, Anna said. Margaret stepped aside without speaking, gestured for Anna to enter. Inside, Elizabeth and Greta sat at the table. Both girls stared at this stranger who claimed to be their mother. Both were painfully thin. Both looked shocked by Anna's appearance. "You're fat," Elizabeth said finally. Not accusatory, just observational. "You look American," Greta added. Anna knelt down to their level. "I'm your mother. I know I look different. I know I'm healthier than you. But I didn't choose this. I was captured. I was dying. The Americans fed me according to Geneva Convention rules. I gained weight because my body was starving, not because I betrayed you." She pulled out the photographs. The October photo showing her at 121 pounds. The May photo showing her at 128 pounds. "This is evidence. This is what happened. I was 98 pounds when I was captured. I would have died. They saved me, not because I asked, because it's policy." She looked at her mother. "I know you don't believe me. I know the neighbors think I collaborated. But look at the dates. Look at the progression. This is what adequate nutrition does to a starving body. This is medicine, Mama, not betrayal." Margaret took the photographs, studied them, looked at the weight progression. 98 pounds at capture, 121 pounds in October, 128 pounds in May, 30 pounds gained in 8 months. She looked at her granddaughters. Elizabeth had lost 5 pounds in that same time. Greta had lost 3. "You gained 30 pounds while your daughters lost 8, Margaret said flatly. "How do I explain that to them? How do I tell them their mother ate well while they starved?" "By telling them the truth," Anna's voice rose. "By telling them Germany let us all starve, me included, and when I was captured, the enemy fed me according to international law. By telling them that if I'd stayed in Germany, I'd be dead. That we'd all be dead because there was no food, no medicine, no care. So you're saying Germany failed us?" "Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Germany prioritized war over people, prioritized ideology over survival, prioritized everything except keeping its citizens fed and healthy. And when I became an enemy prisoner, I received better care than I ever received as a German citizen." The words hung in the air like an accusation. Not of Anna, of Germany, of the system that had demanded loyalty while providing nothing in return except slow starvation. Margaret was quiet for a long time. Then, "The neighbors think you're a traitor. Let them think what they want. I know the truth. And eventually, Mama, you'll have to decide, do you believe your daughter, or do you believe people who'd rather I died than survived in a way that makes Germany look bad?" That night after the girls were asleep, Margaret and Anna sat in the small kitchen drinking tea made from herbs because real tea was still too expensive. "Tell me everything," Margaret said finally. "Everything that happened. Start from capture," Anna told her. The initial fear, the medical examinations, the discovery that she was dying from malnutrition, the therapeutic feeding plan, the weight gain that was systematic recovery rather than reward, the weekly weigh-ins, the documentation, the realization that she was healthier as a prisoner than she'd been as a free woman. She told her about the photograph order, about holding the placard with her weight displayed, about knowing it would look like condemnation, about sending it anyway because refusing wouldn't change the truth of her survival. Margaret listened without interrupting. When Anna finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then, "I almost didn't let you come home. Almost wrote telling you to stay in America. Thought it would be easier to have a dead daughter than a traitor daughter." Anna felt tears burn behind her eyes. "And now? Now I think maybe I was wrong. Maybe survival isn't betrayal. Maybe you were just lucky enough to be captured by people who followed rules about feeding prisoners." She paused. "But the neighbors won't see it that way. We'll still whisper. We'll still accuse. Can you live with that?" "Can you?" Anna asked. "Because choosing to believe me means choosing to accept that Germany failed us, that the enemy was more humane than our own country. That's what people can't forgive, not my survival, but what my survival proves about who actually valued human life." Margaret picked up the October photograph, studied it in the candlelight. "You look healthy here. For the first time in years, you look like you did before the war, before the hunger, before everything." She set it down. "I want to hate you for that, want to resent you for surviving well. But mostly I'm just grateful you're alive, that you came home, that Elizabeth and Greta still have a mother." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was acceptance. Acceptance that survival was complicated, that health could come from unexpected sources, that sometimes the enemy proved more merciful than your own nation, and that truth was almost impossible to accept, but undeniable once you stopped fighting it. Anna Richter stayed in Berlin, rebuilt her life slowly, carefully, in the ruins. She found work as a secretary again, this time for the American Occupation Administration. The job was controversial, more accusations of collaboration, more whispers that she preferred the enemy to her own people. She ignored them, fed her daughters with her wages, bought vitamins and milk and protein, watched Elizabeth and Greta slowly gain weight, slowly recover, slowly stop looking like children who were dying. Margaret lived with them. The relationship was complicated, strained. There were moments of warmth and moments of coldness, times when the old accusation resurfaced. How could you eat while we starved? But they managed. Family held together not by easy love, but by determination that war had taken enough already. In 1950, Anna remarried, blamed war, blamed the impossible choice between believing her daughter or believing the world made sense. Eventually, she chose to believe me. But I don't think she ever fully forgave that I survived comfortably while she suffered. In 1989, Anna died at 86. Among her possessions, the 2 photographs, carefully preserved. A note attached. These photos almost destroyed my family. My mother saw them and thought I'd betrayed Germany to survive. My daughters saw them and thought I'd forgotten them. The neighbors saw them and called me a collaborator. But these photos prove something important, that I was dying and the enemy saved me. That adequate nutrition is not a reward, it's a basic right. That survival is not betrayal. When you look at these images, at the woman who gained 30 pounds in 8 months, remember she wasn't being spoiled. She was being rescued from malnutrition her own country had caused. And remember that the hardest betrayal wasn't mine. It was asking a mother to choose between believing her daughter and believing that the system she'd trusted had actually valued her life. I survived. That's not betrayal. That's medicine. Remember that. The photographs are now in a museum collection about POW treatment and family separation, displayed side by side. October 1945, 121 pounds. May 1946, 128 pounds. The placard reads, Anna Richter, accused of betrayal for surviving. Proven innocent by documentation. Reminder that health is not guilt and adequate nutrition is not reward. It's human right. Her daughters with her wages, bought vitamins and milk and protein, watched Elizabeth and Greta slowly gain weight, slowly recover, slowly stop looking like children who were dying. Margaret lived with them. The relationship was complicated, strained. There were moments of warmth and moments of coldness, times when the old accusation resurfaced. How could you eat while we starved? But they managed. Family held together not by easy love, but by determination that war had taken enough already. In 1950, Anna remarried. An American soldier who'd stayed in Berlin after occupation ended. More scandal, more accusations. She really is a collaborator. Married the enemy. Anna stopped caring what people thought. She'd survived. Her daughters had survived. That was enough. The photographs, both of them, October and May, stayed in a small box with other important documents. She showed them to Elizabeth and Greta when they were older. Explained what had happened. Why she'd looked so healthy. Why that health had seemed like betrayal. Did you feel guilty? Elizabeth asked when she was 17, finally old enough to understand complexity. Every day, Anna admitted. Every single day I felt guilty for being adequately fed while you starved. But I couldn't make myself not eat. Couldn't make myself refuse medical care. Couldn't choose to die just so you wouldn't think I'd betrayed you. I'm glad you didn't die, Elizabeth said. I'm glad you ate. I'm glad the Americans fed you. It was the first time anyone in her family had said that without hesitation, without qualification. Just glad. In 1975, Anna was 72 years old. A researcher studying POW treatment interviewed her for an oral history project. Do you still have the photographs? The researcher asked. Anna pulled out the box, showed the two images side by side. 121 pounds. 128 pounds. The evidence of survival that had once been evidence of betrayal. People couldn't understand how I gained weight as a prisoner, Anna said. They thought it meant I'd done something wrong, collaborated somehow. But all I did was accept adequate nutrition when my body was dying from lack of it. She paused, then added, the real betrayal wasn't mine. It was Germany's. Germany betrayed its people by prioritizing war over survival, by letting us starve while claiming to protect us, by making adequate nutrition seem like a luxury instead of a basic human right. The researcher asked, did your mother ever fully forgive you? Anna smiled sadly. She never blamed me. Not really. She blamed circumstance.